So, one of the functions that we need to remind ourselves of is what we call a hyperbolic, which has the basic characteristics. It is given by the following equation, which says y is going to be equal to a x plus p plus q, and then it goes on to speak of the asymptote, which is something that we can approach but will never touch. So we speak about P is the opposite sign of the asymptote, and then we have Q, which is the y asymptote. Now, here's our example. As a reminder, what are the things that we need to know from a hyperbolic function? Number one, if you are given the following function, and then they say determine the vertical and the horizontal asymptote. Vertical x, horizontal y. So if they say they want to know what is going to be the vertical asymptote, this one, we're going to tell them this here should be 0. Yeah. So we say we have a which says x plus 2 is going to be 0. And then we take this to the other side, it says x is going to be equal to minus 2. And then for something like this, we'll get a mark. They also want us to determine the horizontal one. How do we get the horizontal asymptote? We say y is going to be whatever the value of q is, okay? Positive or negative. We take it with its sign. So y is going to be equal to what? And then for a question like this one, we should be able to collect 2 marks. Now, what else do they want? They say the equation of the axis of symmetry. We can have one with the positive gradient, and then we can have one with the what with the negative gradient. I took both of them here. Examination are going to give us one. And then now we'll just have to choose between getting the one which is positive or the one which is what, which is negative. How do we get that? Remember, if we're given the equation, the simplest way to get it is this. If you are given the equation, the simplest way to get it is to do something like this. You take this part here. And then if you take that part, it's going to be like this. So you have B. On number B, you're going to have y, which is going to be equal to x plus 2 minus 1, like this. So this one is going to be the one with the positive gradient. Now here, if they didn't write anything outside the bracket, we'll split as the one. We'll say this one multiplied by this one multiplied by this one. And we'll say we say x plus 2 minus 1. Now, these two are like terms, okay? So you're going to have x plus 1. So this one is going to be the one with the positive gradient. What happens if you take the one with the negative gradient? You still take exactly the same thing, except you're going to say y is going to be equal to open bracket. You have x plus 2 minus 1. You put a minus outside here. Here you put a positive 1 with the positive gradient. And then you have this one multiplied by this one, which is going to give us minus x. Negative multiplied by positive, it gives us minus 2. Minus 1. And then this one and this one are going to give us minus 7. Yeah, for something like this is 2 marks. It's either you're going to get the one with the positive gradient or the one with the negative gradient. Now here's the good news. The equation of the axis of symmetry always has the gradient of 1 or negative 1. Is always going to be like that when it comes to a hyperbolic function. Next, they said we should be able to determine the x and the y intercepts. Now, x and the y intercepts, we have x is equal to 0 if we're looking for the y intercept. If we're looking for x intercept, y is 0. If we're looking for y intercept, x is 0. The simplest one to start with here on number B, we'll start with B. I think that's the simplest. Let's start with number B. We look for the y-intercept. So we say B. Oh, it's number C. On number C, we're going to say we have y, which is given by, what is the equation? Minus 3. X plus 2. Minus 1. Okay. So we say y-intercept. X should be 0. And then it says which are going to have y, which is going to be minus 3 all over 0 plus 2 minus 1. And from here you can give it to Mr. Cation. What do you get for this one? You get minus 3 all over 2 minus, which is going to be minus 5 all over 2. And then you have minus 5 all over 2, which is going to be minus 2, 5. So that's the y-intercept. Okay, let's look for the x-intercept. X-intercept, y should be 0. I'm not revising it. That is why I'm giving you everything at once. In grade 11, I taught you how to get asymptotes alone, getting the x-intercept alone, drawing the graph on its own. But now since we're revising, let's just try to get almost everything. So here we have 0, which is going to be minus 3 all over x plus 2 minus 1. Take this one to this other side. It says we have minus 1, which is going to be minus 3 all over 1. Yeah, I wanted to see if you're awake. Plus 1. It's x plus 2 again. Cross multiplication, it says we have x plus 2, which is going to be minus 3. Take this one to this other side, it says x is going to be 5. So what are the coordinates here? The coordinates of the x, it says which are going to have 5 and 0. When x is 5, our y is 0. And then when x is 0, our y is minus 2. Minus 5. Sure. Yes. And then NP, sketch the graph, starting with the asymptotes, and then our asymptotes should have dotted lines. Yes. So I'm going to start with our asymptotes. We already know what our asymptotes are. What are the asymptotes? Minus 2 and minus 1. Yeah, you go to your graph paper. They will give you a graph paper. Yes. So you say we have what? Minus 2. Yes. So we come to minus 2. We put our dotted lines. And? Minus 1. Minus 1. Minus 1 is here? Yes. Sharp. Okay, after that, let's put the x and the y-intercept. What is our x-intercept? Minus 5. X-intercept? Minus 5. It's minus 5. Sure. Yes. And then, what is our y-intercept? 2,5. So this is minus 2, okay? Yes. Between there you have what? Minus 2,5. Now, that's what I will say to learners after this, go to your calculator and then put this thing here so that you get a proper shape. But now, you already have an idea to say how does the shape look like, okay? So, since we have an idea how does the shape look like, let's simply draw it. What is important is that we are going to have one graph here. It's going to be approaching from this side. We have one which is going to be approaching from the side. And then we have another one which is going to be approaching from this side. It passes through here. Now it doesn't touch the asymptote, it can only approach the asymptotes. And then this is going to be our f of x. Usually they will say show one more point. Like it's wise, guys, to say, because sometimes you'll find which you have the x and the y-intercept using one graph, like one part of the graph. So when you have to get the other points. How to get the other points? Basically, you can do it with your calculator. If you do it with your calculator, I think I will show you how do you still get it with your calculator. But the other thing that you can do is this. From the equation, what does the equation say? It says we have y, which is minus 3, all over x plus 2 minus 1. Yeah, I can say this then, I can say when x is 1, meaning which I can come and put 1 here. When x is 1, what is going to be our y? That's the question that I can ask. I come and put 1 here. Then if I put 1 there, it says which I have 1 plus 2, which is 3 again. And then it says we have minus 1, which is going to give us what? Minus 2. So it says which when x is 1, we are going to have this point here. So you can do that. And then last but not least, they say on number 5, or it's number E. Write down the domain and the range. Okay. How do we get the domain and the range? Number E. X is everything, but X cannot be whatever the vertical line is. Okay? Let's come and check which one is our vertical line here. Our vertical line says which X is equal to minus 2. So if they ask us which one is going to be our domain, we're going to say X is an element of all the real numbers, but X cannot be minus 2. X cannot be equal to minus 2. And then Y can never be whatever. the horizontal line is again. So what is going to be our y? Y is an element of all real numbers again, but y cannot be. It cannot be -1. And then you get a mark here, and then you get a mark here. And then here's your activity then.